Welcome back to Mahoromatic, the show that has demanded the most careful editing to avoid nudity in any work I have ever done, and I doubt that won't apply today yet again, even though this is the final leg of Season 1 here. Mahoro is now contemplating the duel that she must battle as she looks up at the night sky, just as she has finished in our last part. That means that the following day will likely be her last one. Operating at only 30% of her normal power now, she's unlikely to be able to defeat Ryuga in that state. So she plans to really live while she still can, and asks Suguru to go out on a date with her today. It leads to a strong inner conflict for Suguru, who can't decide whether or not it's the right thing for him to do, which shows a rather powerful change from when he saw her on the bus and imagined pulling her under the covers for a rare demonstration of subtle sexual implication. And yeah, I know it might be hard to see that as something subtle, but when the episode is less than 1 minute in and already shows us gratuitous nudity, implying that they're about to start boning under the covers, that's subtle for them. And gratuitous nudity is the name of the game here, because 1 minute later, Mahoro is in the shower, and under many circumstances, if you wanted to titillate, no pun intended, you'd show much of the breast but crop out the nipples. Well, here, they are careful to crop the picture specifically so you don't see all of her breasts, but definitely can get the nipples into the shot. Kanazuki had ninja nipples, Mahoromatic has photobomb nipples. And while you're coming to grips with that...
Should I really be here at all?
You're a very bad boy! This is a violation of the Wholesome Youth Protection Nurturing Ordinance!
Mahoromatic is like a mashup of erotica, war drama, and Tom and Jerry. Not that there was ever anything sexual about Tom and Jerry, of course. Nope, nothing sexual at all. So let's get back to Miss Shikijo, correcting a pop quiz while hungover from yesterday's festivities, and the pile of empty beer cans around her apartment says that she probably continued celebrating long after the barbecue was over. She figures the only way this correcting is going to get done is to have a few more beers, and by a few more I of course mean enough to get a small gathering of friends shit-faced. Her bad day gets worse when Mahoro heckles her, from behind the wheel of a sports car no less, that she, a maid, owns. This is what you can do if you don't need to pay for tanker trucks to bring booze to your house, lady. She's even further incensed that the two are out on a date, convinced that Mahoro will get him drunk and then lock him up for perverse purposes.
As a woman of God, I'll do everything in my power to stop your evil plot before you can do him harm!
I think you phrased that wrong. You're not a woman of God. You're a woman of... oh, God. She pursues, but Mahoro came prepared.
Mahoro, what are you gonna do with that thing?
Ever since I first arrived, she's been nothing but a big pain, so I thought I would blast her into little bits with a small missile.
No, please don't do that!
Okay, I won't if you don't want me to.
I mean, you liked the fireworks, so, I just assumed that, death by fireworks would be okay with you. My bad.
Wait, I know! Maybe I should just pepper her with a barrage of bullets from my 20mm machine gun.
Absolutely not! Don't do that either!
Okay, how about I just use my special 71 caliber 88mm cannon?
No, don't do any of that!
Right now, someone in Texas is getting an erection that you could throw a tent over and hold a gun show underneath. She's just kidding and isn't going to murder Miss Shikijo. Maids really shouldn't go around making messes after all. Instead, she fires a laser through the tire. Once Miss Shikijo has stopped at a light, of course. Just make sure she hasn't turned into road pizza or anything. Nah, there's no casualty here. Well, except for that flower, of course. So now that they're no longer being stalked, Mahoro and Suguru can enjoy a wonderful day at the fair, only interrupted by the revelation of Ryuga's nature as a combat android. Well, it fits in naturally. Roller coaster, merry-go-round, your teacher's actually my killer robot nemesis, cotton candy. Actually, in Suguru's case, it should be, your teacher is my nemesis. The pedophile? No. Different teacher, different nemesis. Speaking of which, Miss Shikijo shows up in a Yoshi costume to continue spying on Suguru, only to be mobbed by kids and succumbing to heat exhaustion. And I suppose it's ironic in a way that the pedophile was stopped from stalking a boy by a mob of children. She catches up with him in a Chinese restaurant where she gets an ass whooping for not paying for her meal. She dropped her wallet inside of the Yoshi costume, and I guess they don't do the washing dishes thing in Japanese Chinese restaurants. Carry the one? Yeah, that's right. By the way, if you ever want to get dizzy, watch a Chinese character in a Japanese anime speaking pidgin English. It leaves you with, is this racist? And if so, who's doing the racism? It's kind of like finding a Where's Waldo where you're not sure if a character is actually Waldo in blackface. Things are far more serious with Mahoro and Suguru, where she insists that she never has been happier, while he notes all the times that he's seen her looking so sad, which leads to awkwardness, which he sorts out by running off to get a camera, either to give it time to get less awkward or get a chance to remember the awkwardness forever.
I wonder what we look like right now to other people who might be watching us.
Huh?
Well, what do you think?
I don't know. I guess I think that...
Yes, Suguru?
I guess you know.
No, please tell me.
It's a trap!
I guess we're like, big sister and brother?
We look like a big sister and little brother? I guess that's wonderful, too.
Well, you've managed to make the awkwardness awkward now. It's like it's become fractal. That's the best time for the photo, but everyone looks busy making out with their dates. All except for Miss Shikijo, who comes crawling up, revealing her panties because why would she not? I think that's supposed to be a bear face on there with a bow tie, but I admit my first thought was that it was a target with a bullseye painted right on her ass, which would really be pretty fitting, wouldn't it? Mahoro tries to be nice, but as always, this ends with a fight. While they're going at it, a trio of dudes start picking on Suguru. Big mistake. One of these two women is a combat android, and the other has stalked him in a way that a starving lion wouldn't have thought was worth it. So they terrify the guys into running off, giving them one brief moment of unity before it's back to the fighting. Gotta say, if she can't handle Miss Shikijo, I'm not sure how the fight is going to go with Ryuga. Then again, I doubt even an android killing machine is as committed as Miss Shikijo is. She's like some kind of perverse Terminator, come back from the future to corrupt our youth. Well, all that draws this day to a close, and that means that it's night, and night is when the big brawl is going to start. So Mahoro puts the stew on and then gears up, says goodbye to Slash, who warns her not to resort to using it, whatever it is. We're not told other than that it's it. So, on to episode 10, which reminds us of her days as a combat android by going all the way back to the beginning, when she emerged fully formed from a tank a little under 10 years ago, made to be a warrior. This immediately led to conflict between the guys who wanted to send her out to do operations and the guys who wanted to ensure that she would be capable of doing this kind of job.
What did you say to me, you blockhead? You're the blockhead!
Ah, it's the great debate of Brown v. Van Pelt regarding the pulling of footballs. The chief engineer got his wish, though, and the tests began. The kind of endurance trials that few can hope to survive, not with one's dignity intact anyway. During this time, she frequently talks with Commander Misato while he's out fishing. Very upbeat things like sunsets, and how it's good that Mahoro was born, both for herself and for Vesper, since we soon see her curb-stomp victory over Saint in her very first engagement. In celebration, they all head to a hot spring, where Mahoro is excited, singing about hot springs while being continually interrupted by the other women on this retreat, whom she notices all have much bigger boobs than hers, leading in the end to a complaint about being the smallest one here. This may be backstory, but that's no reason not to stop and smell the titties. After the fan service is finished, we return to the fishing, where Commander Misato has caught some of the ugliest fish that you have ever seen, and he has no idea what they are. But he's convinced that they have to be good eating on the most ridiculous of reasoning, involving all of the ships that have gone down around here.
When ships get blown up, they sink, right? Well, when that happens, lots of people on the boats sink into the ocean. First, tiny shrimps come and clean up the bodies. Then, the fish eat the shrimp and get fat.
Even if that wasn't incredibly disturbing and fairly stupid, that still doesn't prove the fish are safe to eat. It only proves that I should never eat anything in your house. To change the subject completely, he then talks about himself.
Are you suggesting there was a person just like yourself living in 16th century Japan, Commander Misato?
I believe that I am a constantly changing eternal incarnation. In the previous life, I earned my place in heaven, but my soul could not leave behind the lure of combat and the call of the battlefield. And so here I am again, hungry for the days of unending war and the excitement of battle that boils my blood.
So you're like Patton, if he was obsessed with fish. On the actual war front, Saint has taken their combat up a notch, but even that doesn't matter to Mahoro, who eliminates a dozen of them in 20 minutes, impressing the hell out of Disembodied Voice. But what everyone is amazed by isn't her combat skills, but rather that she's just such a good person. They were expecting a clanking monstrosity or a Frankenstein's monster, but what they got was someone that they have all become enamored with, setting up why they would all be so interested in her well-being that a letter from her demands time during an official meeting to be read. And a bit of rivalry when Mahoro was introduced to the video library and was choosing between those two guys' different choice of what good movies are. They're surprised to learn that she's just watching one particular film over and over again, Terror of the Chameleon Man Part 2. In it, the maid comes to the rescue of the young mistress from the Chameleon Man, which now explains why, of all the ways that Mahoro could atone, she chose to be Suguru's maid. Anyway, the war wages on.
After that, the enemy attacks continued. It was sporadic, but without end.
Oh, that kind of forever, not the short-term forever that you have to settle for nowadays. But eventually the day came when the attack on the missile base happened, and Mahoro was forced to fire and kill Commander Misato. A grim end, and bringing us back to the present, as Mahoro approaches Ryuga for the big climactic battle between them. And the ending countdown of the episode showing how many days she has left is now gone, replaced with, some kind of fish, maybe? Well, whatever it is, it's probably bad news, so we better jump right into the next episode. Suguru has a dream he's lying under a tree where he sees his mother and she turns into Mahoro. Nothing unusual about a young boy seeing his mom turning into a girl he's fantasized about boning. Let's move on. Now that we've seen Mahoro's early years, it's time to check in on Saint, which we see through the eyes of, I think this is Sarah from last time, the one that talked to Ryuga when he returned from the school. One of the problems for Saint is that the trip across the galaxy has been so long they can't remember anything about where they came from except an image of deep blue. During their trip, Saint's mother, Matthew, hey, it's the 21st century, I'm not here to judge, led them on the journey to find another civilization with which to make contact, but not even finding life, not until they found Earth. It seemed that things there went off to a bad start, what with the whole war thing. According to Sarah, humanity was too primitive to understand anything else, and thus the combat androids were created. And why this war is just so frickin' weird. This is the alien invasion equivalent of being mugged by Gollum. Freeze! Please? My precious just needs do it now. No, sorry, we're sorry. Give us what's in its pockets is. So, it's time for the climactic battle.
If I must seek that which is holy, I must sever the part that is vulgar. Still, holiness and vulgarity are like twin brothers.
Ah, the weapon has been chosen, and it shall be Poetry Slam to the death!
As one brother matures, the other's shadow will be at his side. If one clings to the hearts of man, tenacity will breed inside one's own heart. Isn't that an impossible proposition?
Mahoro responds with an admission that her going to Suguru was an attempt at penance at first, but it has become something more, and she is hopeful to return to it. So, on with the knife fight. Haikiba!
Sword tip is heavy. Can't you shake off your cloud? Did you come here without wiping the fog from your mind?
There is no fog in the mirror of my heart!
Yeah! Whatever the fuck that means. Things aren't going well, though, so she shoots him, and Batman's over the edge to a lower floor. But that's only a temporary lead. Ryuga is quick to bust through the walls and swipe at her, while wanting to know why she's acting this way as they fight. Although it's hard to formulate a reply when someone's swinging a sword at your face. Mahoro is hit by a blast, and we cut to Miss Shikijo waking up on the floor covered in empty beer cans. Now, for most educators, that's a point where you should ask yourself, what has become of me? And start making a new life. But Miss Shikijo goes for option B, having lecherous thoughts about an underage boy. Even that fails for her, though, and if you can't count on pedophilic fantasies, by God, what can you count on these days? wonder how many fans would have been happy if that scene had fully played out. Back at Suguru's, he gets up early and discovers the note that Mahoro left for him. It doesn't talk about everything, it's just a goodbye letter, and he's understandably grief-stricken and thoroughly pissed. And so he does what anyone does when that happens. He goes to the cat to demand some answers. Slash fills him in, but says that there's no point in going. It's not like he can stop two battling combat androids, well, not without a very large magnet, or perhaps turning over a turtle in the desert. But Slash had told Suguru when they first met that since Mahoro was his master and Suguru was her master, then it follows that Slash must answer to Suguru. So Slash has no choice but to take him there anyway. And maybe Suguru can do something. He could maybe distract Ryuga with one of his big boob magazines. But Mahoro thinks she has a better option.
I must hit him dead on with this one blast.
Holy crap! What's the name of that thing? The Freudmaster 5000? The gun draws so much power that the city goes dark, including the creepy scene of what we can only conclude is Miss Shikijo masturbating while calling out the name of Suguru. Which admittedly is hilarious timing because I'm sure for just a moment she had to wonder if she really had made herself go blind. It's alive! It's alive! She shoots Ryuga with some kind of antimatter blast, which Saint and Vesper both detect. And we all know once you've broken up the antimatter, shit just got real. And a bit radioactive.
What's that?
I'll bet Mahoro's risking it all on a one-shot battle.
Well, I hope that works, but if it doesn't, I brought my bicycle. Watch out, Ryuga! Watch out! Well, shockingly, even that blast has failed to stop Ryuga, meaning that Mahoro has given it everything and still hasn't won. So, with only one episode left, it's time for the ass-kicking. After repeating the conclusion of the last episode, this final episode kicks off with Ryuga doing the pole vault level sword attack, where they leap up about 20 feet or so into the air with the sword overhead to come down and really have a little oomph behind it. Mahoro manages to dodge that, though, because it's a move that takes about 10 minutes to finish, but it doesn't help her too much. She winds up with an uppercut that's so hard, she winds up having time for an inner monologue and a daydream before she finally lands. She can finish her bull testicle stew, get rid of that note, and forget this fight ever happened if she could just manage to vanquish this guy, who was just shot by antimatter and walked it off. During the daydream, she talks with Suguru about nothing. All the members of the entourage come by for a picnic. Even Miss Shikijo invites herself along to chaperone. Oh, that's lovely. This story really needs less obsessing about sex with underage boys.
Hey, Chizuko, isn't your father a movie director or something like that?
Yeah, and now that you mention it, he saw your picture recently at home and said something to me like, this girl is a diamond in the rough.
Really?
Yeah, he also said you could be compared to Riho Asaoka.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's great.
By the way, who is Riho Asaoka?
You mean you don't know? She's a legendary porn actress. She has really pretty boobs.
That is not what I meant. They're thinking about their wishes for the future, hopefully not involving being felt up by a dirty old man. But when it comes to Mahoro's wish, she seems to remember, oh yeah, I'm being beaten to death. This is hard to watch. Partly because we're seeing a character we've grown to know over 12 episodes being attacked, but mostly because I'm flashing back to every game of Mortal Kombat I ever played against someone else. But this is a grim moment.
Suguru, I'm sorry. It doesn't look as though I'll be coming home.
Look, I know you're going to have commercials in there with probably a singing dolphin ghost selling Sony stereos or whatever Japanese commercials are like, but you couldn't maybe put in a more appropriate bumper, at least have a little bit of a gap between the I'm dying and do-do-do-do-do-do-do, we're happy. Anyway, after the commercials, Mahoro is wondering why Ryuga isn't delivering the killing blow, but he's wondering why she seems to be holding back. In fact, he's insulted by it. She may be able to momentarily disarm him, judo fling him aside, but none of that stuff is going to defeat an adversary that took a shot from the ultimate nullifier in the face and just wiped it off afterwards.
It's time you and I stop playing these games. I think we should both get around to using our secret battle techniques to finally determine which one of us is the strongest warrior.
Oh, yes, my secret battle technique, of course. Good thinking. I left it in the car. I'm going to go get it. You limber up so you don't pull anything when you do the big what for and everything like that. And I will be back in 2 shakes of Mishikijo's melons. The thing is that Mahoro has something that she can actually pull to destroy Ryuga. It's just that in her current condition, she wouldn't survive doing that either. So she figures she might as well just let things come to an end. But that's when help arrives. Here I come to save the day. Ryuga tells him to piss off, but Suguru refuses to budge.
I don't know what happened between you two in the past, and believe me, I don't want to know. I know the war between aliens and Earth people has nothing to do with me.
Alien war against the human race? Yeah, that's not my problem. Ryuga thinks about what Suguru says, but he's a combat android. This is what he was made for, and proving himself is what he needs more than anything. So he tosses Suguru aside so he can get back to this. Well, that was a mistake. Mahoro was ready to die without any further fighting, but she won't let anything happen to Suguru. But she has one secret weapon left, the thing that was mentioned several times building up to this. Mahoro has a perfect heart. But that's not just figurative. Her actual heart has power in it, power that is more than enough to take down Ryuga. But this will exhaust that power and she'll stop working. But here she is, like some Captain Planet flunky, ready to stop the bad guy with the power of heart. But when Slash cries out, Ryuga pieces everything together, so he finally puts away his weapon to spare them both and accepts the fact that he was defeated, though he was ahead on points. As Mahoro flies the injured Suguru off, holding him so that he's looking up at the sky, he has a brief flashback of when his parents were still alive, looking up at the night sky. Now they're gone. So it's no wonder that Suguru's first thought after making sure that everything is all right again is to ask that Mahoro never go away like that again. Remember that she had said at one point that leaving him would be the best thing in the end, but now she knows that isn't true. And the journey along the way has shown her that the emotional pain that comes from loss is always worth it if it means that we get to have all the good things that led up to it. That, after all, is why it hurts in the end. This is the journey that Mahoro has been on throughout the story of the first season. She knows in her perfect heart that life is precious. What she has learned is why it is so. Because it is about more than merely continuing to exist. It's about what you choose to fill that existence with. The girls talk about their dreams of the future. That's how they hope to fill theirs. And Miss Shikijo, for all her comic relief / to catch a predator antics, shows how empty it can be when you don't do that. Mahoro's victory over Ryuga wasn't with force of arms. It was through her actions, that having a function or even a purpose is not what should define that existence. It was, in the end, her perfect heart that won the day, and it did so because she allowed Suguru and the others into it. This is the reason why Season 1 had a bit of meandering to get to that end. It had to be as much about living as about the ongoing conflict with Saint. There's still a lot of unanswered questions about this war. Why is Saint clearly prepared to cause widespread devastation to the Earth, and yet so clearly holding back? Who exactly is this mysterious disembodied voice? Is it a man or a machine or something else? What exactly is Vesper? Is it strictly Japanese or is it a worldwide organization? And does it have a strict big titties only hiring policy? And is it hoping to recruit Miss Shikijo as an agent at some point? She's got to be a shoo-in for drunken master training at least. The season's main weakness is that its humor is excessively sophomoric. I understand there might have been some Japanese humor that went over my head due to my lack of cultural understanding, and so it could be argued that I'm just seeing the broad comedy because I can understand that. But other things, like the girl who constantly goes off on the exquisite nature of food, it feels like a gag beaten into the ground. Despite that, I'd say the season was an interesting juxtaposition, and the subtext allowed the two to be relevant to each other. While it was sometimes tedious, I'm left with some cautious optimism when we go on to Season 2. Not that I'm plugging that, of course. I assure you, no more ads in the middle of reviews anymore. Atomea, Sony!
All hail the Overlord! All hail the Overlord!
That bratty baby fat maid! Ah!